Hi, this is Nick from nickbro.com. Now in this video we're going to talk about how to overcome anxiety with tools such as tapping or EFT and NLP. So if you're the type of person who might suffer from anxiety, who knows people who are suffering from anxiety, or simply want to better understand anxiety and how to deal with it, then this video is for you. Now there's really two ways that somebody picks up anxiety. One, it can be through a trauma, and two, it can simply be learned behavior by constantly observing a parent. So if you've got a parent who's always anxious about certain things, then as a child you can pick that up too. Now there's two different forms of anxiety. One which I believe is emotional and one that resides in the subconscious mind. And I'm going to give you an example of both. So in terms of subconscious mind program anxiety, so let's say you've got a fear of dogs. You're in your 30s, you don't know why, but even when you go near that tiny little poodle, you tremble in fear. Well, that likely comes from a traumatic event and is a subconscious pattern. So let's say at the age of 6 months old, you're crawling under the table and you have your first encounter with a dog. And the dog actually jumps at you, nips at you, and it really scares you. Well, part of the role of the subconscious mind is to try to keep you safe. So the subconscious mind says, oh crap, I don't know what that is, but that's a risk to your safety. So from now on, I'm going to start running a program in your mind so that anytime you're around one of these things, I'm going to trigger fear. Right? Now, 30 years later, you forget about that incident under the kitchen table, but that program is still running. Right? Now, the reason you can't talk yourself out of it is because the conscious mind or thinking mind runs in language. The subconscious mind, where that program is running, runs on images and emotions. That's why you can't talk yourself out of it. So even though rationally you know that you don't have to be afraid of that tiny little poodle in front of you, you can't stop trembling. So that type of anxiety is best handled with tools such as neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which has tools to reprogram the subconscious mind and subconscious beliefs. So that's one form of anxiety. Now the second form of anxiety is more at an emotional level and comes from emotional baggage. And I used this example in my previous video about physical conditions. So I had a client who came to me because she was moved into a new role at work and she was having panic attacks. And even though it was a positive role and a good role, part of the role was making her feel helpless. And it was just something small, but it was triggering panic attacks. And the reason for that was 3 years prior, her son had to have a pacemaker put in. And that whole circumstance, as a mother who can't do anything for her child, made her feel extremely helpless. And what happened is after the surgery was completed and after the pacemaker was put in, he was fine, and she repressed all that helplessness. So 3 years later, when she was moved into this new role, that tiny little bit of helplessness that she was hanging on to brought everything back up to the surface, and that's what was responsible for her panic attacks. So in order to help alleviate that anxiety, we do emotional clearing work, and that's where the tapping comes in. So tapping is a tool where you tap on certain points on your body and you use specific statements to release the emotions. So the goal of tapping, the goal of the EFT, is to help you feel and release those emotions. And by releasing those emotions, you're releasing the root cause of what's triggering the fear and the anxiety. So I hope this video was helpful. If you think it would be helpful for anybody else, feel free to share it. Feel free to post it on your Facebook wall. If you have any questions or comments, post a question or a comment. And if you feel like you need help or want to learn more or want a discovery session, just shoot me off a message using my contact form. Bye for now.